the Asian economies, or more accurately, it's not so much a China story as it is certain Chinese provincial stories. And like Africa, we talk about, can Africa industrialize? Well, Africa is a big place. The flying distance from Africa is probably the same from Dusseldorf to Beijing, keeping it relevant. It's about 10 hours from top to bottom. So to assume that, can you industrialize Dusseldorf to Beijing? Probably not. Can you industrialize Cape to Cairo? Probably not. So where are the sort of pockets of potential success? I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out now, hopefully technology helping.
Bolas, Martin somehow gave us a macro perspective. Now asking you, so on one side representing let's call it one of the leading developing countries, and second, representing a company which is based there. And to a certain extent, your business is somehow heavy asset-based on one side, but on the other side, you have also entered into the new business with your IT business, etc. So how would you say, do you believe that these kind of challenges, which has been described more or less openly, is that really a challenge or a chance for India, or especially for your company, or would you say this will take a long time and we need even to cope with the basics?
So I'd like to say a few different things. First of all, I think that it may actually be possible in some situations to leapfrog, from 1.0 to 4.0. For example, in India, with cell phones, I remember when I was growing up as a child, it was like hereditary property to have a telephone in your house. And if somebody died, his son would get it. Whereas today, it's not a big deal. You can have as many phones as you want. So part of that was possible because, the technology has moved so quickly forward that when finally government policies were made more friendly to it, it was possible for people to just bring it in very quickly and completely transform the landscape. And I think the same thing can happen in other industries as well. So for example, in 500 to 1000 AD, the spinning wheel was invented in India, the charkha, as we call it. And one of the neat things that it did was that in every village, people could spin yarn, which could be then made into textiles. And, so today, you could really look at 3D printers as some kind of an analogy for spinning wheels. So you could have people sitting in different villages in India, craftsmen, who could, improve their trade and improve their productivity by using tools like 3D printers. We don't really need to know how to manufacture them. We just need to know how to run them and how to maintain them. And by the way, Professor Hausmann talked about, how the Huguenots were expelled from France and they took textile printing technology to Germany and helped German industry. So I just I did some research on Wikipedia, so I'm sure it's very accurate. What it says is that back in the, maybe 7th or 8th century or something, textile printing technology was a very closely guarded secret in Calicut in South India.
Yeah.
And then, Vasco da Gama came to Calicut in 15th century, end of 15th century. And then eventually some of those craftsmen converted to Christianity or Catholicism. And a French Catholic priest called Father Courdeau or something took it, some craftsman sort of shared the secret with him. He took it back to France, and then that helped the European textile industry to develop. So, there's all kinds of ways in which technology or know-how can move from place to place.
Okay, thanks. Would you agree with me if I'm saying contrary to China, India did not develop to such a kind of workshop for the world. So you were not that, and you are not that mass producer as maybe China did it. Was it, do you have any, can you give us any clue about, was that somehow intentionally done, or is that maybe not the potential of India, or did India miss something on that side?
I think that there are several factors that go into such things. So perhaps one factor was that India was perhaps not quite as friendly with the United States. We were more friendly with the Russians. And so the Americans wanted to become friends with China. So, trade between the US and China was perhaps easier than trade between the US and India. The second part of it was that, in India, the political system that we have, there are many checks and balances, and the parliament and the state governments, and, different people have different powers. So to get anything done, there are many people who have to approve it or give a license or, do different types of things. Which perhaps is not required in China, because if the mayor of that province says you can do it, then you just do it. So I think what the good thing that's happening now is that as states in India want to develop, they begin to compete with each other.
Yeah.
And even as a country, we are trying to improve our ease of doing business. So I think once people understand that this is important and it needs to be done, it's possible to do it. But different systems of governance will have their consequences.
Okay. Tommaso, your company belongs on one point to the good old European economy. But nonetheless, you have had also your challenges as Europe did it. So, and your company is, as we said, not a mass producer. So it's very specific, know-how, detailed equipment. Have you already adopted in your company strategy all the issues we have already at least touched on, means Industry 4.0 or IT technology, both with regard to the production of your own production, as well as maybe equipping your machines and tools maybe with that kind of technology in order to serve better for your clients?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that very much depends, as you said, on the kind of industry. Also depends on the size of the industry, because Carrara cannot do the same things that GE can do, for example. In our case, we are a heavy metal, all-time good manufacturing company for both components, but also we make specialized tractors. We have a manufacturing strategy that is seen that we have two main manufacturing hubs, actually three main, two for axles and for tractors in Italy, one in India for transmissions. The story that we had in India is similar to many other companies, and I believe that is we did the same mistake that all the companies from Western did. So we went to India to see for a cheap labor cost. Of course, Indians, blue collars, also managers are cheaper, but we didn't consider factors very important. First of all is the already mentioned know-how. Manufacturing gears is very much involved with the know-how of the people. I remember that 3 years ago I went to visit one of the most advanced company for mechanical engineering in Germany. Liebherr is a big company, and they had like a huge factory with many machine tools, most modern. At the end, there was a man with sandpaper to make the final touch to the product. This is a know-how that is not written in books. I think it cannot be replicated at this point with robots, these kind of things. It's very costly. You build this know-how through trial and errors. So after 20 years in India, we have a very beautiful, a very efficient company. Nevertheless, I wonder if I had to invest the same money in my companies in Italy, I would have a better company in Italy probably than what I have in India because of this know-how factor. For us, there is an important factor that we are a very capital-intensive business. So to build capacity for 1 million new gears, I have to invest more or less 1 million. So for us, it's very difficult to replicate factories all around the world. It's very costly, it's very difficult. So we have basically three main reasons why we go outside to build a factory. First of all is the government policies, and very often I don't agree on those policies, but places like Brazil, you either manufacture tractor components in Brazil or you don't sell it because it's a subsidized market in favor of made in Brazil products. Other reason to go outside Italy is to avoid complication like in China. Or in China, we just signed a joint venture agreement to make specialty tractors. The reason is because the partner have the commercial network that is very difficult to assess for a Western company. Not because I can make tractors cheaper in China than in my factory.